Good evening, Tracy. I'm your host, Raj Singh, and I have a co-host, Gurtej Atwal, along with me. And we have such a dynamic personality joining us to co-host this show, Harjinder Mattu. And I would like Harjinder Mattu to introduce himself on the show to our audience, and I will give a little bit brief about him if he not going to highlight his all the key points. So please go ahead, Harjinder.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Harjinder Mathu, as Raj already said. I served in the public education for 26 years, started in a community college at Sacramento, American River College. Then I was a teacher and vice principal and principal in two different schools in Sacramento. And my last principal assignment was in Modesto, Prescott Junior High School. And the assignment from where I retired was the director of education in Stockton Unified School District. And I'm very glad to meet all of you.
Thank you, and we're very honored and glad as well, Harjinder. And today, the objective of this show to have Harjinder with us. Just to clarify, he's not a candidate; he's our team member who's hosting a show with us. So, Gurtej, why don't you tell us who's our candidate today, and what this show is about, and what this candidate is running for before we bring the candidate on this platform?
Yeah, thank you very much, Raj, and thank you very much, Harjinder, for joining us today. So today we are here to do a straight talk with the candidate for Delta College for District 6, which comprises of Mountain House as well as the Trustee. So today we have a very dynamic personality who is running for the Delta College School District. His name is Casey Goodall. I'll add him, and he's an educationalist as well as an administrator. Very welcome, Casey.
Thank you very much. It's great to be a dynamic personality. Thank you.
Yes. Thank you, Casey. Thank you. And we are very glad to have you on the show as well. And I think we can start off with your introduction for our audience, who Casey is and what Casey is running for.
Okay, so my name is Casey Goodall. I have been the Associate Superintendent for Business at the Tracy Unified School District for the last 26 years. I came to that from the Navy, where I was a Lieutenant Commander in the Supply Corps. So I came from the Navy after 9 years, came right into this job, and have been in the same job for 26 years. Since 2000, back in 2000, since 2005, I've been a senior adjunct professor at the University of La Verne doctoral program, where they train administrators in organizational leadership. I'm doing that still to this day. So it's like I say, I'm a faculty member or adjunct faculty member for the doctoral program. Back in 2002, 2003, I taught finance for the California School Boards Association for new school board members. So I have this not only from the administrative perspective, but how things are supposed to work from a school board K-12, but similar. Also, from 2005 to 2008, I taught school finance for the University of Southern California in the Sacramento campus. I have a bachelor's degree in English and an MBA from Utah State University and a doctorate from University of La Verne, the same program that I'm working for now. So that's kind of my educational and experience that I think kind of prepares me for this kind of educational role as an oversight.
Mr. Goodall, thank you very much for introducing yourself to us and our program. And you have a very impressive background, and it's an honor to speak to you on this program. And so to begin with, what would you say is your vision for the Delta College and the satellite campuses? And what would be your priorities to take place, especially specifically in District 6 and Mountain House campus and overall in Delta College?
I think my vision is a very pragmatic one. I don't have any fancy ideas about making big changes, but I think we all recognize that COVID-19 has changed the school operationally in the short term. I don't know how that will impact things in the long term, but I don't think we've yet felt the financial impact that we will see next year, as the governor and the legislature starts to address the budget problems that they discussed last spring and then put aside, really, they didn't make the cuts that they had talked about. And I'm not sure how they're going to fix that. But in January, when the governor comes out and talks about budgets for K-12 and community colleges, I think we may be in for maybe not a surprise, but some very negative financial news. And I think my experience going through 26 years of financial ups and downs has kind of prepared me emotionally and psychologically. And I've gone through a lot of strategies about how you deal with that. So I think, again, I have something to bring there from my own experiences, how to deal with financial times so that you can deal with things in the short term, but not be negatively impacted in the long term. There is evidence, data that Delta College has that students coming out of the high schools in Mountain House and Trustee are underrepresented in the Stockton campus. And in my own mind, I believe that's because I live 26 miles from that campus. My son, when he got out of high school, went to Livermore to school. I think that's something that other students who reach that age say, it's easier commuting to Livermore than it is here. And I can just tell a story here that, somewhere 20 years ago, let me just try to remember my little story here. So Jesse Garza Roderick, who's the associate dean out here at the Mountain House campus, she approached Trustee Unified 20 years ago, trying to put together a way we could provide better services to the Trustee students. Mountain House really didn't exist at that point. And we worked together to have students and teachers work in the Delta program at Trustee High School and West High School. And clear back then, Trustee Unified bought some buildings, installed them in what's now the adult school program right there behind the district office. And we ran a Delta College campus out of those buildings. It worked for 5, 6, 7 years. And that's when the campus in Mountain House started. And the idea was that was going to be a substantial campus that was going to grow fairly quickly with one of the bonds that passed years and years and years ago. Well, that small campus began, but the dream Jesse and I, Dr. Roderick Garza, and I shared back then was that there would be an expansive campus there that would be able to provide a broad spectrum of courses for students so they could maybe do all or most of your program right there in that campus. That hasn't happened. And now is not the time to be passing a bond to be constructing new buildings, but it is something I think Trustee and Mountain House deserve in the future, and it's a very substantial problem that needs to be solved. I have to say that I think it's Rahm Emanuel who talked about never let a good disaster go to waste. As schools are learning how to deal with COVID-19 operationally, we may learn something from that in the long term, we learn that some of that may help provide services in the Mountain House campus, and that you don't need as many facilities as they originally thought. So I'm open to learning from other people how that can best be done, but I really would like it for a student to be able to do all or most of their coursework from Delta College. I should also mention, I didn't mention this in my educational part at the beginning, I enrolled as a student at Delta College. Started my first class a couple weeks ago, and I have to say that I've been very, very impressed with the teacher I have, but also with the support services that they provided in this COVID environment. I'm getting updates every day about services that they provide for students who need it. They've got food banks, they've got health services. There's a lot of stuff going on there, and I'm really impressed with how the campus operates. So I don't want to sound like I'm being critical, because I've been very, very impressed as a student and I think as a potential board member. How's that for a long answer?
Mr. Goodall, thank you so much. Actually, I think our audience will appreciate this detailed answer, and that brings so much. And by the way, just a brief question: which class are you taking there?
It's photography. I decided that when I retired, I was going to do something to get me out of the house to go hang out with young people engaged in learning. And then this all got messed up, so it's all online. But I have to tell you, I'm really learning a lot. It's some good assignments that's being done online. So I've been very impressed with the learning as well, and I'm having fun. That was the important point.
That's wonderful because you're getting first-hand experience how the education is being delivered at Delta College.
Right.
And as we understand that you will certainly like to expand the Mountain House campus, and so Mountain House needs to expand its program to attract more students. And what are there some programs in particular which you would like to bring to Mountain House?
I I think that I would not. I think I would be overly confident to say that I know what the best programs would be. I think you want to start with the programs where there's the most interest by the students, so that you can fill those up and expand upon those. Um, as I was thinking about how you could use online services to replace the traditional way we've done schools, I was listening about how do you teach band and orchestra and chemistry. Those are very, very hard classes to do online. And so it seems like those kind of support classes where you need a structured facility have to be there. And I don't know, I think there's people who've thought about this more than I have about how you might get the most out of a facility if you build it for a variety of purposes, where a student might do some online courses 1 day a week and in person 2 days a week, something like that. I don't want to suggest that I know the answers to that, but I'm interested in focusing people's attention on that.
Thank you so much.
No, thank you very much, Mr. Goodall. As you mentioned, you have a financial background. You are very much affiliated with the education, as well as you are a continuous learner. So, from the COVID perspective, you also touched that how the disruption has been happening in the educational sector. So, being a financial background, you also understand, yeah, the disruption is still coming in the financial aspect more. And 24,000 students, they are going on day-to-day basis, are affiliated on day-to-day basis with the Delta College. So what do you think? So if the financial aspect, it will be taking the college, or it will be try to take the college little bit back, a couple of years back, what would be your approach to deal with that financial aspect?
Well, I think in general, my idea about governance is that nobody knows the full answer to anything, least of all me. But what I do know is that many, many people have little parts of that answer, and that the best way to figure out how to um, respond to a crisis like this is inviting lots of people to participate. I have to say, though, that if the question is, I would like everyone's opinion about what should be cut, I can tell you I already know what the answer is. It's everybody else but me. So that's not as helpful when you're talking about what should you cut. I think the question is how can I and how can you, how can everyone else do things differently to get us through 1 or 2 years of financial crisis in an economical way. And I think you get very, very creative solutions to those kind of questions. And again, I don't presume to have the answers to those, because I think the questions, there are so many questions that need to be asked about that, and then finding answers for those. And the best way to do that is by involving lots of people with expertise, like they've done, I think, for the most part, in sorting out how to teach classes this year. It's the expertise of the teachers themselves, the support staff. People have done, I think, an excellent job because they know how to do it, and they've been asked to do it, and they've all come forward and made things work. And
Right.
so I think you just continue with that same kind of thing, asking for help.
Right. So having bringing a partnership and coordinating with the resources that will be available, and bringing the right expertise to go through this phase. Now I'll just hand it back to Harjinder.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Goodall, and one thing which is happening at K-12 level also. So especially dealing with COVID, students have to depend on technology and needs to have access to good broadband internet and their devices at home. And we may have many students who are not in a financial situation to afford uh, high speed internet. So, is there some discussion that the college would, how can the college help those kind of students?
So I mentioned that as a student, I'm getting feedback every day about what the school can do to help me and others. And I can tell you that some of the workshops they've been advertising this last week is financial aid workshops. How can you get access to money to help you complete your education? Career tech information about how and workforce development. How can I get some training that will prepare me for a job as quickly as possible? I talked about the food pantry, reduced cost and free internet. So the university already has a program in place for providing internet for free or for a low cost. And they've also have tablets that they're checking out to students. So those programs have been in place. That's part of what I've seen. Very proactive about trying to help the students deal with that issue. I think they've got it. It seems to me, and I've got my own computer here and my own broadband, but it seems to me they're being very proactive in solving that problem. And I've not heard that there are any problems that aren't being addressed there. So I've been impressed.
Right.
You know, I should go back to one of the questions that you asked. I got lost when you were talking about my vision. I talked about the COVID, and I talked about the Mountain House program being expanded. What I didn't talk about is, again, something I think the university is taking very seriously, but it's where I think the most work needs to be done in the long term as well. If you look at the education code that describes the purpose for community colleges, it talks about providing high quality academic instruction, vocational instruction, language instruction for English as a second language, and then remedial instruction for people who need it, including adults. And then it also talks about contributing to a continuous workforce improvement to advance California's economic growth and global competitiveness, something we need now, again, because of the COVID. That, I think, the university's done a very good job. I mean, the college has done a very good job at, but there are particular student groups who are underrepresented in the campus in certain areas, and I just want to mention some of those. So, some areas for improvement, and the university knows this, and the college knows this, and they're working on it. But they, 1, 2, 3. There are 5 different categories of success that the college looks at. One of them is access, and I've already talked about how I think the Tracy and Mountain House students are underrepresented at the campus, and the data supports that. Interestingly enough, white students in general are underrepresented, and males, individuals with disabilities, and veterans. So that's in the access category. Then you've got a category called course completion, and so the biggest areas underrepresented there: American Indian / Native Alaskan, Black or African American students, and current or former foster students are underrepresented in completing courses. So how do you deal with those groups to give them the support they need to be more successful in completing their courses? Another category is in students who have English as a second language or are struggling with basic skills, the remedial kind of stuff I talked about before. Again, American Indian, Native Alaskan, Black or African American, and individuals with disabilities are underrepresented there. Related to the thing about not completing courses is completing degree and certificate programs. Black African American students, individuals with disabilities, and veterans are underrepresented in those categories. And then the last category is transferring to another college or other program to complete your education. Low-income students are struggling there. And when I talked about why I think students maybe from Tracy and Mountain House aren't attending the courses in Stockton. This is a really very economical program. I paid my tuition. It was $150 for my one class. But if I had to drive to Stockton multiple times a week, I think my gas would cost me 4 times what the tuition is. So I think if I'm a student struggling with my income, trying to afford not only going to school, but going to work at the same time to earn that money, I think that those two tie together, the access and this low-income students not being able to transfer to colleges. So it's a socioeconomic problem that extend beyond the community college and into the four-year campuses, but it's a problem that needs to be resolved. So that was my third category of my vision, and it's being addressed, but it's something where, and I should even talk, currently the Black Lives Matter issue is something that needs to be addressed not only as a institutional problem or issue, but also a student learning question. How can students learn to, as they move on to become the next generation of leaders, what can they do differently to improve that area? So that's another area that there's an opportunity for improvement right now that I think we need to take advantage of. And I'll stop at that point. Stop visioning.
Thank you so much. Good, thanks.
Yeah, so you have touched that, there are underrepresented communities and there are dropouts too. So that is we are facing in all these situations in all the communities, all the areas where we are. So do you think this more satellite colleges or we have 100 plus courses or the certification courses and the trades that are being taught in Delta College? As you mentioned, you are taking a course in photography. So, or there is some change needs to be done in the programs that would enable those candidates to be successful in those careers. So there is a dropout rate. There are candidates who lose their interest. So do you think there is some change or revamp need to be done, or what are your thoughts on that?
I'm trying to imagine if I were that young person and I maybe was married, maybe have a child, and I've got to go to work and earn enough money, and then I need to spend a big chunk of that money going to school. It becomes very difficult for me to keep education, completing my courses and my programs to completion. And so I think it's a bigger social issue than just what is going on in the classroom. But again, I think Delta College with the food pantries and whatnot are really doing a lot to help that. But I think it's something that's bigger than Delta College can fix itself. I think as a community, and I like the word community college because we're talking about the educational community of the entire county. What can we do to help students complete their coursework and programs now so that they can contribute to the economy more effectively? And so you have that short-term commitment now with a longer-term payoff later. So it's a big question, and I think I don't have an answer for it, but it's something that fascinates me, something to try to solve.
Right. So more partnership is needed between the community as well as the college, as these are the community colleges. So there should be more outreach so that children or the students should be encouraged. So yeah.
That's what I should have said. Yeah. Good answer.
Ms. Goodall, you already mentioned vocational education, the significance of it at community college level. So is there some initiative or is there some conversation of expanding internships with various businesses or various productions in the region for the students at Delta College?
So in my job at Tracy Unified School District, I was also the risk manager. And so my answer to this is going to be, if you can manage the liabilities of that, yes, it's a good thing to do. But I think, and obviously it's a different kind of program at the community college level than it is at the K-12 level. You older students who are more autonomous and whatnot. But I do think that partnerships are the best way of helping those students not only improve their skills, but also to network with people to get those jobs. But there is a lot of potential there for lawsuits, and so I would want to engage with people who share my concerns about that before I just committed to a particular program like that.
Right. Go ahead, Gurtesh.
Yeah, so you have the military background and you had been an administrator in your career. So what would be you bringing from that aspect or that expertise that you had in the military as well as being an administrator?
Well, the last question you asked me about internships.
Right.
I think people would be shocked to learn how much of each of my days was spent dealing with questions like that, the liability issues of not only that, but a sports team wants to come and use this field and do something in it, or a parent group wants to have electrical, bring all your electronic items to the such and such school and we'll sell them in the parking lot. And all of a sudden we're being sued because someone shocked themselves on an old toaster. That was a good chunk of every day of my life, is dealing with those kind of issues where people who are meaning to do well are causing risks that you spend a lot of time trying to minimize. So that's an example of things that you wouldn't talk about as, I mean, you wouldn't normally think about. That's a big issue about, can I sell a toaster or not on the campus? But those are things that happen. And I know that from experience, not because I read it in a book. And I think other examples, there are thousands of examples like that in every aspect of administration. And I think what it makes me do is apply caution every time I think I have the right answer, and ask myself, has someone else already had this good answer? And maybe there's a reason we're not doing it. I want to pursue my good idea, but I want to do so cautiously because I don't want to create a problem that's bigger than the problem I'm already trying to solve. So I think my experience in both the military and here supports that view. I also have to say that I learned very early in the military, someone told me, never become a block in the process so that you're keeping other people from getting their job done. Other people have important things to do. Their work is often far more important than what yours is. Your job there is to make them successful, not so much to tell them what to do. You work as a team. In the Navy, I left as a lieutenant commander. I was an officer that whole time. But I'll tell you what, the enlisted guys knew how to get things done. And I learned very early to respect that in them and to not second guess, to learn from them, first of all, so that over time I try to become as expert in it as they were. But I didn't, I want to bring that to the trustee position as well, that the people doing the work know a lot more about it than I do. And I'm there to provide some oversight and bring some questions about the toaster being sold in the parking lot, things that occur to me, but I don't want to be thought of as the expert who's going to solve the problems. I'm just there as a member of the team to help support them.
Right. So you want to lead as a facilitator, as a partner. Yeah. No.
Yes. Yeah.
Thank you very much.
So,
Yeah. So Harjinder, yeah, please.
Ms. Goodall, so being some variety of background at K-12 schools, so we always think about collaboration with community colleges, being at high schools, and then for community colleges having vertical collaboration with four-year colleges. So where is Delta in that from that perspective, and what initiative can be taken to broaden that collaboration?
I think what I can do I have connections with all of the high schools in Tracy. I can very easily, I think, make those same kind of connections in Mountain House, and I can help facilitate that advertising or whatever it is, trying to entice students to sign up. And I would very much like to see more work done on high school students being able to earn coursework towards their community college goals. That's been difficult in the past, but it's something I would very much like to pursue. And I think I know the people who can maybe help that happen. So from K-12 moving to the community college, I think I have a lot of relationships that can help me help that. I don't so much at the top end going out. So I'll have to depend on someone else for that.
Right. No, sure. So one more thing comes to my mind as we were discussing COVID. So it is taking an emotional toll on all the students. So K to 12 also, students going to community colleges and all those students. And going forward also, it will have a lasting impact on the students. So do you think as an institution, educational institution, so certain programs or certain things should be started or should be facilitated to those students to just kind of come out of those mental situations?
I'm going to say yes, but I don't know what those would be, and I don't even know how to think about that. But I will bet you money people are thinking about that now. And again, my idea would be to support that kind of conversation. I don't know how you help that, but I can just imagine the frustration of being locked in a house for a year as the prime of my life, trying to burst out. And like I said, I was going to go out and take my photography class and meet people and get out in the community but it's nothing to me. I've got a pretty nice life going here, just being retired and sit around with my dogs. But as a student looking toward the future, I think that's got to be tremendously frustrating. So I support that idea you're talking about. I would work very much with the administration.
Right.
I don't have any thoughts on it right now.
Mr. Goodall, you mentioned various groups that are disadvantaged having support at community college level. How about extra support for students with disabilities?
Yeah, so individuals with disabilities. So two areas that they're both impacted, according to my access to the campus. And again, I wonder about if I have a disability of some kind, how difficult is it for me to get to the campus? How difficult is it for me to get around the campus? And I don't have any background on that, but it's something that makes me wonder about that. What could we do to encourage individuals with disabilities in the access area? Also in basic skills, and English as a second language, surprisingly. So I saw a lot of support. I'm seeing that as a student there. There's a lot of support offered. I don't know how many students are taking advantage of that. And then the last area is completing their degrees. So if I don't get the access, if I don't get the basic skills, I'm not finishing my program. I think because they're in three of those areas, it's an area that really needs a lot of study, I think, but I think you're hitting upon something that needs to be resolved.
For students in the Tracy area to commute to Delta College campus in Stockton.
I missed the first part of the question.
So, one problem we discussed initially, in fact, you brought out students having difficulty to commute to Stockton, so they would rather go to Livermore. Is there some conversation or some initiative having public transportation from Tracy area to Stockton, main Delta College campus?
I thought about that. So I thought, I suspect that's not very practical. If we got a bus that goes every hour, that starts to be very expensive. And I don't know how full it would be at different times. So as my classes are scheduled through the day, you have to coordinate those classes with the bus. So I don't know how practical it would be. It'd be something interesting to look at. What might be more practical is carpooling, which who wants to ride in someone else's car? But I think carpooling seems to me to be a more practical solution to that. But again, if I ride over with someone, I might end up riding back with someone else. So it might be a complex system to manage. But I was thinking about it, if I have to drive my car over there, but I got 3 other people to help me pay for that, and it's basically I'm working as a online driver. I could help pay my own costs by sharing with other people. So that might be the better solution.
Right. So as Casey, you mentioned you are going to work as a facilitator, and you have a great expertise, great kind of, you have worked with the Trustee Unified School District. So one thing, as Harjinder mentioned, it is hard for the students, and you also brought the point from these areas to commute to Stockton. So the other thing I was just thinking, so we have a wonderful infrastructure of schools in Tracy, and those are the students which will be going towards the universities or going towards the community colleges. So is there any opportunity to discuss with the Tracy Unified School District or Mountain House school districts to use their facilities and run some of the courses there?
We've done it in the past, and it had what I found that some of it worked better when the classroom being used was used in the daytime by a teacher. Teachers get very possessive about their classrooms, and people come in and touch their stuff and mess things up. We found in the past when we were doing this, it was more successful if a Tracy teacher was hired to provide the community college course in their classroom. And that took the politics out of that problem. But I suspect that's something we could pursue again. Yes.
Sure.
So, Mr. Goodall, we are very impressed with your background, especially in your financial background and your military background. I think you will bring a lot of assets with you in this situation, and your willingness to work in the team, not just bringing your own ideas. So
Thank
that's very appreciated. Is there anything else you would like to touch?
I don't think so. I'm exhausted.
So I would request you, Casey, so briefly, please share with our audience, with our voters, so how they will remember you.
I'm Casey from Tracy, so that's easy for people to remember. Casey from Tracy, vote for me.
Yeah, and maybe briefly summarize some of the key points that you are considering, so that our audience, they can listen to those and bring in more questions to you for clarification.
Okay, so think Casey from Tracy is number 1. Number 2, a lot of experience as an administrator in a school district, but also as an instructor in teaching people finance, but also as a facilitator in the program at the University of Laverne, which teaches a lot of facilitation as well. And what I want to accomplish is I want to get us through COVID-19, and I'm thinking that's a 2 or 3 year project. I want to expand the programs and facilities at Mountain House. And I think the facilities thing is going to be something that has to wait, because it's a terrible time to be asking people about, people are at risk themselves financially. This is not a time to talk about spending more money. But I think your idea about expanding into the classrooms of our own schools here in Mountain House and Tracy, like we've done in the past. And then again, just dealing with these specific subgroups that need our help in making them successful. I heard a guy talking the other day about, he went to a college. He was a math major, and he was not good at math, but he was lucky enough to get a teacher who considered it his own failure if a student failed. And so now this guy is a famous economist, and he attributes his success to that teacher who made him into a good math student. I think that's what we need, and it's a magical thing, but I'm hoping for that. That's to make the students succeed.
Right.
So that's my summary.
Thank you, Mr. Goodall. It has been an honor to talk to you on this program. Thank you very much.
Thank you. It's been nice meeting you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Goodall. Thank you, Mr. Harjinder, for informing our voters. So at the end, I will request our voters to please ask your follow-up questions to Casey on his Facebook page, or you can reach out to us. We will forward those questions to Casey for further clarification. Thank you very much, all, and have a wonderful evening.
Thank you.